This talk today is something I've done many times before, but I wanted to do it really with the idea of being able to share it with a lot more people. So we're going to actually DVD it today, so it's going to be something that we can have out there in the world. I'm a doctor. I've worked 30 years as a doctor, as a GP mostly. So I've really worked a lot with people. And what I've found is that as well as the science of medicine, there can also be the art of medicine. So really this lecture is really about an approach which is complementary, not alternative. Yeah. So the two things I don't want this to be, I don't want to just sell you another model, because I think there's enough models out in the world already today. Yeah? This is to try and suggest an approach, a different way of approaching things. The other thing I don't want to do is do something that is alternative. Yeah? I don't want to do alternative medicine. I want to do something which is complementary. Yeah? It's not competitive, it's collaborative. So I want it to be something which goes alongside. So I'm not interested in a sort of Luddite alternative thing. I'm trying to do something which can live alongside scientific medicine. And my experience as a doctor is that the people doing evidence-based medicine, the sort of Ben Goldacres and the people like Dawkins, this scientific approach, these people are just great humanitarians, so I'm not trying to do something which is in any way refuting what that brings. I'm just trying to add something to it. And if you want to look at it in a way in terms of hemispheres of the brain, it's as if a lot of science today comes out of the right hemisphere. Yeah, this is the left hemisphere. All right, comes out of the left hemisphere. This is an approach which focuses on the little things. Yeah, it's something which gives you the ability to be analytical about things, and it also gives an approach which looks really at quantity, and it depends on having a well-developed intellect. All right. What I want to add to that is the other hemisphere. I want to try and add something which is macroscopic, which looks at the big picture, which kind of pulls back a little bit and looks at the overall view, and is synthetic. So in other words, I don't mean it's made of plastic, I mean that it's something which brings things together, looks for the connections rather than trying to define the differences. Yeah? And the sort of currency of this approach is looking at quality, not quantity. Right? And the faculty that it's suggesting in people is imagination. So again, as I keep saying, it's not an alternative, but it's almost like without it, you've committed a sort of auto-lobotomy. If you only stick on one side of that equation, you're only using one half of your brain. So this is trying to bring it the other half in. That's the sort of picture. Okay, any questions? Right, so what I will do today is talk about 3 essential qualities, and I've presented this in lots of different ways. I've looked at it sometimes in terms of the mineral kingdom, I've looked at it in terms of animals, and I've looked at it in terms of plants and people, but today I'm going to use animals. And there's something great about the animal kingdom, because not only does it have really dramatic forms, but because they're so close to us, it feels very immediate. It really feels like you can sense what they're like. So I want to start with an imagination. I want you to imagine all of the different animal forms that are possible. Yeah, all sort of slugs and baboons and all kinds of different creatures, pigs and dogs. And I want you to imagine now that those, from an almost structural point of view, the animals within that kingdom that are very, very drawn out. I want you to imagine for a moment that your arms become incredibly long and attenuated, yeah? And that your nails and the hairs on your arms become hugely enlarged, massive great areas, so that if you were to shake someone's hand, you would actually wave yourself back. And that your nose, which is soft and delicate, has become hard and curved and sharp. And your feet, which are these sort of sexy, scrunchy things, have actually become all nail, yes, all extended and hard. Yeah? So obviously, what am I describing here? What is this? That's right. So I'm describing the sort of bird kingdom. So the eagle is the kind of classic. So I'm talking about this guy. Yeah? So when you look at these pictures, what do you feel?
Observed.
You feel observed. Look, someone's looking at you. Yeah, this laser sharp eye. Yeah, and how you are being observed? Analysed. Yeah, you're being observed with a certain cold clarity, aren't you? Yeah. Distance. So it's actually a little bit. It's the removed observer. Yeah. So if I start looking at some of the things that make that up, look at these sorts of things. These are your feet that have become these incredibly tortured, dry, almost sort of mineral-like claws. Yeah, that's what your foot has now become. And your bones, the hardest, most solid, have become these. Yeah? Light as a feather almost. Yeah, this is the main force-bearing bone of a hawk. And it's got fabulous structure, but no substance. Yeah? So you've got something that has got a magnificent, exquisite structure, but almost no mass. And of course the archetypal component of the bird kingdom are these things. Yeah, so you've got these beautiful, and if you look at them, these incredible structured things, I mean, if you look at something like this, yeah, each of these filaments divides again and again and becomes this incredible thing that just doesn't want to really come to earth. Yeah, you can sort of so if you take a look at those, that is almost a masterpiece of structure over mass. Yeah, structure over substance. You've got something which is incredibly, exquisitely sculptured, but has almost no substance. So already, I'm going to stick within certain colours. So I'm going to talk about this eagle form, always in blue. And the different primary colours somehow belong to these different structures. So already there's a quality here where form is much bigger than substance. Yeah? So mass is not the issue, it's all about form. And the tissue is this sort of dry, desiccated, sharp, exquisite form. Yeah, so desiccated. So, what do you think it's like being an eagle? What do you think it's like? You know, the eagle, when they're in their most perfect environment, when they're really home, are this total... there's this beautiful line out of Dylan Thomas where over St John's Hill the hawk on fire hangs still. Yeah? You imagine this hawk as it is riding the updraft, just twitching a tail feather or slowly moving and angling. And if you watch them, this beautiful thing that its head stays perfectly still. Yeah? It will be moving things, but it is the most perfect control freak of the animal kingdom. And does that so that its eye, which has the highest concentration of cones in the whole of the animal kingdom, can see right down there, in that bush, a little mouse is just about to make a terrible mistake. Yeah, it's just about to rush between one bush and it just folds its wings and dives. So you've got this combination of control in the heights, and when it comes to Earth, it brings death. Yeah, you've got this lovely thing that everything about it is a killing machine in a way. Its feet have become killing tools. Its nose has become an organ for ripping. So you've got this beautiful end of a spectrum in the animal kingdom, and what I think each of the kingdoms has a motto. The one for this one is control in the heights. Okay? You see the eagle on the ground and it's this yeah, it's an ugly thing. But when it takes to the heights, it becomes the most perfect of animals. But everything about the eagle is about control. It's clarity and sharpness. So I want to give each of them a motto. Control in the heights. Okay. So we're going to come eventually to the psychology. But what would you think would be what's the kind of psychology? How does it feel being an eagle? What would sort of be a good eagle profession, or what's a kind of eagle type person?
Legal eagle.
Legal eagle. Yeah? What are the professions that need that cold, clear clarity, that need that total, intense, laser-like certainty? Architect? Neurosurgeon? Pathologists. Opticians. Accountants, yeah. So all of those sort of super bright, intelligent, yeah? So I've done these kind of different animals that would also fit within that description. It's not just birds. You can also think of those kind of animals as well, these beady-eyed little, and even snakes have a little bit of that quality. So I'm not just saying it's eagle, but it's the whole quality. But the kind of people I've characterised here, yeah? The sort of...
Where are the boys?
Oh, I always do the girls. It's a preference. It's just that I don't like spending a lot of time looking through boy magazines. Gives you the wrong reputation, yeah? Yeah? So the psychology would come to later, but there's a feeling, isn't there, around the eagle? There's a feeling that comes with it. What it must be like, the soul life of an eagle. Yeah?
Lonely.
This is great. This is great. So let's talk about this as well. What is the social... The ideal picture of the eagle is alone, isn't it? The eagle in its environment is up there on the top of the mountain with that sort of pino fresh air, yeah, totally awake, but on its own, yeah, living on its own in an eyrie. So it's also the great solo operator, just like the accountant or the doctor. You know, you get worried if you go out and say, "So what do you reckon I should do here?" Yeah? You want someone who is totally in control in that moment. You know, you don't want your neurosurgeon to say, "Anyone else want to have a go?" You want someone who is the ultimate professional. So you've got this kind of quality that comes with the animal pictures as well, that starts leading a little bit into human psychology. All right. Now take everything I've just said, all of that sort of fine exquisiteness, all this wonderful, you know, laser light, and reverse it. Okay? So start initially just on the form. Yeah, I took all these pictures, well, I don't know where those claws and bones are, but all those things, that exquisiteness and that, yeah? What happens if you take, now just as a structural idea, all of that stuff and start taking it in, yeah? Everything I've said now becomes the other way around. So the wing now becomes an incredibly simple thing, yeah? And those claws start merging in and they become a sort of unified, simplistic thing.
Is it a dolphin fish?
Yeah, so you start getting these kind of seal, dolphin, these really simple pictures. And I always use the walrus, yeah? So now compare these two. You've got this wonderful picture of the eagle with everything sharp and bony and exquisite, and then you've got this. It's a relief, isn't it? Eh? It's almost like I used to do the lecture, just talk about one each time, and everyone would go out after the eagle lecture. It would feel like scratchy and yeah. But now, if I introduce this, it's like, oh my God, what a relief! Yeah, and you go from this painful awakeness to this glorious asleepness. Yeah. So. In fact, where is the eye? You can hardly see it. It's a massive, great body. You know, it's like, hello, hello. Yeah? You get this kind of total different imagination of what the consciousness of a walrus is compared to the consciousness of an eagle. So, if we talk about the psychology, this is super awake. We're talking really at this end. When we come to this walrus pole of something really, it's not even asleep, it's in a coma. Yeah, something in coma. So over here, I've got some animals that have those qualities. Yeah? So walrus is a great example. And the great thing is that the deeper you go, the more massive you can become. Because with the eagle I talked about how the form is so much more important than the substance, but with the walrus, the substance is so much more important than the form. Yeah? We're now just talking about sheer massiveness. Instead of a wing, you've got a simple flipper. Instead of a claw, you've got a simple tail. But the sheer mass of it defines what the quality is. So anything, you know, the manatees or the whales define that sort of massiveness. But although this looks really cute, there's another quality that comes with these. Yeah? More people are killed in Africa by hippos, the friendly, vegetable-eating hippo, than any other animal. And their sheer mass in itself is able to give it another quality, yeah? Which is power. So the massiveness of it gives it an enormous power. So with the eagle, you get control in the heights, but with the walrus, you get power in the depths. Okay? And that's its motto, power in the depths. And it's not just power, it's not just massiveness that each individual is massive, but it's also the massiveness of numbers. Yeah? These are the animals that live in the herds. The wildebeest of the Serengeti, yeah, the massive herds, the sort of nuclear strike effect of charging elephants. Yeah, these vegetable-eating creatures can do more destruction than any other sort of animal just by dint of their massive numbers and their massive size. So that's the other end of the spectrum. And if you take this exquisite thing and compare it to this, yeah, you're dealing with something very different. So this is the pelvis of a cow. You know, this baby will never fly. This is totally about weight bearing, earthbound, and this is about control and height. Yeah, and if you take the archetypal unit of the bird is this, then the archetypal component of the walrus is that. Yeah, we all got a little bit of this on us. Yeah, we've all got I always carry a little bit here just for demonstration purposes. Yeah. So if the feather is the unit of the bird, blubber is the unit of these guys. Yeah? So you've got, even sculpturally, you've got a really different thing going on here, haven't you? If you imagine approaching this as a sculptor, you've got this fine, exquisite thing compared to this blobby, soft, warm tissue, which is kind of amorphous. So you've got a different feeling altogether. So already, again, there's different qualities. So instead of solo, we've got herds. Instead of awake, we've got coma. Controlling the heights, we've got power in the depths. And instead of dry and desiccated, we've got blubber, basically. Yeah, soft, warm, amorphous, shapeless. And here, instead of we have now mass is more important than form. All right. So that's the sort of yin-yang of the whole thing. Yeah. So, but there's a big hole in the middle. So, if you've got control in the heights, power in the depths, what we're looking for is the thing that fills the middle. So something has to live on the flat surface between. Yeah? Something that is not owned by this totally awake thing, but can go there. Not owned by this heavy, massive power in the depth thing, but somehow just resides in the middle. So there is a certain kind of animal that feels very happy on the wide open plains. Yeah, and there's a certain kind of tissue and form that lives there. What's the sort of animal that likes to live just in the middle?
Horse?
Horse, yeah. So you've got the horse type, but what's really in a way the king of that area? So the lion, yeah. I mean, it can be any of those groups. The horse, in a way, is a bit more. You're right, it's in that department, but it's a bit more in this herdy thing, yeah.
Yeah.
You've got particularly those sorts of cats. So the classic thing is this guy, yeah. All of these guys, you know, you see your little pussycat. It's so at home, walking around, yeah? It's absolutely the film star of the animal kingdom, and it jumps onto the thing. No effort at all, yeah? This is everything about, it's cool in every aspect of it, yeah? It has no effort in the middle, whereas the eagle looks ridiculous on the ground, and the walrus looks awful. The cat is totally at peace. Yeah? So all of these kind of animals, but also all of the other social groups. Yeah? Because a quality that comes with these animals is they're not solo, they're not herd, there's something in the middle, there's the sort of pack. Yeah, the sort of live in groups with packs. So you've got the lion, but then you've also got this the dogs, yeah, the prairie dogs and the meerkats. So you've got some qualities there that are halfway between. But then you imagine the lion sitting there on its, looking out over the savannah. Yeah, it's just in the heat of the African afternoon, and its eyes are closing and opening. It lives in a sort of constant afternoon nap sense, doesn't it? It's like your pussycat. Your pussycat sleeps 17 hours a day. But it's not actually sleeping, it's kind of just dozing. You know, you go out, you step over it as you go off to work, and you do all these things, and you're changing things, and you're inventing new ideas, and you come back and the cat's just moved a little bit so that it's still in the sun. It's just constantly lives, and what you love them is when you put them on your lap, this sort of rhythmically pulsing middle system that they have. So they have this wonderful quality, but they live in a middle system. So the lion quality, which I'm going to characterise as red, they live in packs. They, in a way, are living in a dream consciousness, somewhere between the over-awakeness of these guys and the coma of those guys. They live in this dozing sense. Their tissue has an ability to be sometimes hard and sometimes soft. Yeah? The archetypal tissue of this, guys, is this. This is tea for me tonight, yeah? So I don't handle it too much. Yeah, muscle. This is steak muscle. Red, blood-soaked muscle, yeah? And your muscle has this wonderful quality that it can be really tight. If you meet people who are very nervy, their muscles are very tight, or it can be very soft and flaccid. So you've actually got a tissue between the two, somewhere between blubber and hair, yeah? It's got an ability to expand and contract. And this is everything about the lion, this middle system that can expand and contract. So here you've got muscle. And somehow you've got a balance between mass and form. Right. I want to now take this. So this is the pictures, the animal pictures, and the qualities that come with them. These are three archetypal qualities, and I've just used animals as a way of sort of getting to the flavour of them. The fact is, this threefoldness goes everywhere. The animals are just one of the ciphers for something that you can find and take into embryology, psychology, mythology, pathology, and any other ologies, yeah? Anatomology, you know? Anatomy, you can sort of do, it's something, so those are the three qualities, but I want to take it, but first of all I want to look at it in terms of soul forces, or psychological modalities. Because you can think of these, the words I like to think of, is that this is conscious or cognitive, this is affect or emotion, and this is volition or will. Now in the animals, they are sort of frozen into one gesture. But the faculty of the human being is that we have all three of those. Not only do we have all three, but we can sort of choose to move between them. So I want to now draw this. And I sometimes use this picture with people. That in the human being, we have a force, an eagle force, and the ability to be cognitive, an affect and the ability to have emotions, and volition, or the ability to be willful. But we have the ability to move between them. Yeah? Hopefully. It's part of our sort of human inheritance is that we have all three of these forces. We have an eagle force, an ability to be cold, clear, exact. We have a pussycat lion force, where we can just chill in with the homies, you know, just be in the moment, enjoy the joke, be in a restaurant. And we have a walrus ability, an ability to get into a volcanic, powerful willfulness. You can imagine this. In fact, in a lecture or a meeting, you can see yourself moving between them. So if I just take this chair, if you're sitting in a lecture or you're at a meeting, you can see yourself during the course of it go through different phases. I used to look out onto an audience and I'd see someone sitting like this. Yeah, and I think that was negative body language. But actually it's not. It's actually pulling into your ego. You know, sometimes in a lecture you think, hang on. He said that. But when later on he said that, does that connect? Yeah? Or you'll be in a meeting and you'll think, hang on, she always irritates him. Why is that? Yeah. So you'll at moments be actually more in your ego, and sometimes you're just in the moment. You're just enjoying it. That's so funny. I can't believe he said. Yeah? And you're just sort of in the moment. And then suddenly an idea will grab you and you think, actually that's really amazing. I could do something with that. And during the whole course of the lecture or the meeting, you're moving between all three. You're actually moving up and down this thing. So as a human being, you can look at that as the beginning of an approach to psychology. You can look at it as three soul types that you can move between. But, of course, some of us are dealt different hands. Yeah, you can see that some people are what I call the lollipop people. Yeah? You can imagine, and a lot of people today, a lot of kids today, I describe to parents, well, you've got a lollipop kid, haven't you? Mm-hmm. And I just do this picture, we've got a system at the moment that really over-educates our intellect, our cool observer. And of course, IT is perfect for that, but it doesn't necessarily do anything to educate our emotional intelligence or our will forces. But you could have any variation on those. You could have someone who was totally living only in their affect. Yeah? Everything was emotion. Never able to focus on the clarity in it, never able to take it into will action. You could have someone who was only willful. No connection to their feelings, no connections to their thinking. You could have any combination of those. You could have someone who's got lots of thoughts, feels a lot, never seems to ever do anything though. Nothing ever happens. Yeah? Or they could be lots of emotion, lots of activity, but never able to actually come to clarity. I call this the headless chicken. Yeah? These people make great, I won't say it. Yeah, counsellors or something like that, yeah? Someone who very intelligent about their feelings, but nothing ever happens. And this, final of the combination, is your classic doctor. Yeah? Or professional. Lots of thinking, loads of doing, middle, not really. Yeah? And I've talked to guys about this, what do you do creatively? So you can see that either your life, your genetics or your biography can actually make you stronger in some of these suits than others. So you've got the beginning of the psychology. And in fact, if you look at something like transactional analysis, which was kind of big in the 70s and 80s, they used to talk about, the parent, adult, child. It's really a variation on this. You could look at the eagle as like the parent, the lion a bit like the adult, and the walrus a bit like the child. So you've got that thing. But if it was only psychology, it would be only kind of sort of interesting. What I like about the threefold idea is it's bigger than that. It actually goes into your physiognomy. And physiognomy was an idea that was big in medicine 100 years ago. This idea that you can actually look at a person's form and it can tell you something about who they are, their type. Yeah, and it's something that's fallen right out of favour now, but it actually, the truth is, we all do it all the time. So I'm going to draw 3 faces. Okay, so these are 3 faces in profile. Do you get those as faces?
Yes.
Only just, yeah? Alright.
That's big chin.
Big chin.
There. That's a chin.
Yeah, that's a chin. Yeah, that is a big chin. What does this guy do for a living?
Eats.
He's a what?
Eats.
Eats.
He drives the truck. He's a builder.
He's a builder. Drives a truck. Anything else? What else?
Eats pies.
Eats pies. He eats pies, yeah. He goes for pies more than he... He's not a big salad eater, is he? No. What about this guy? What's he doing?
Accountant.
Judge. Managers.
Managers, accountant, judge,
Politician.
Thanks.
politician?
Winston Churchill. Just needs a cigar. Baby with a cigar.
What about this guy? What's he doing?
Mucks around.
Mucks around.
Artist.
Artist?
Yeah, he's music.
Yeah, could be Pete Townsend type thing. Chopin or...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a simple thing, taking the face of a threefold structure. And the fact is, of course you could be wrong, yeah? This guy could actually work a jackhammer. And yeah, that's the way he... This could be the professor of neurosurgery, yeah? But the fact is, we all use physiognomy all the time to read it. We actually look at the person in terms of their structure and make assumptions about what's going on inside. In fact, if you look at the human body, it's entirely set up as a threefold organism. Yeah, it's entirely set up. You've got this system up here, which is all eagle, yeah? All to do with the nerve sense and this awakeness and this aloof thing. You've got this middle system, which is all pussycat, all to do with purring and rhythmically contracting. Yeah? And you've got this lower system, which is all metabolic, hot and powerful. So the whole human being as a structure is threefold. In fact, if you look at each one of these, it has its own limb attached. Yeah? You've got this gut has this thing attached. This middle system has this thing attached. And this one has this thing there. This could be a drinking aid. Yeah? So you've got not only threefoldness, yeah? Each one has a thing. But if you take one of those limbs, oh my God, it's threefold. Yeah? And this is one of the things about threefold. There's always threefoldness within threefoldness. So you have the muscular part in some people, yeah? The middle rhythmic part, and the part that's most sensitive, the part that you use for feeling things. So then you take the hand itself, has a threefold structure. Yeah? You have the part that's to do with the will, that you knead the dough with, the middle part that's ticklish, and the part that you use most for sensing. Yeah? And then if you take one of those fingers, well, they're probably not that one, take that one, yeah? It's got threefold structure. Yeah? Each part of it is threefold. Even if you take an individual bone, it has a threefold structure. If you look at a picture such as this, yeah, this is the femur. The femur has a head, a neck, a body, and the part that does all the work, that moves. It is a threefold organism, and each bone has a threefoldness. So it's so applicable that it goes on and on forever. There's threefoldness within threefoldness. So that's physiognomy, which seems a bit of a mumbo-jumbo thing. But what I want to do now, doing another ology, is look at embryology. And just to show that it actually is in the very cells of your body. Every part of your body is made up of one of three different kinds of cells. So I want to do the Jeff Green 5-minute embryology course. This is a fallopian tube. And here is an ovary. And a long time ago, on a planet far away, a little egg drifted out and was here. And lots of little sperm, naughty sperm, had come all the way on their long journey, met it. And one sperm and one egg combined. Okay? And that one unified cell started reproducing really quickly. And it did this. This ball of cells rolled down the fallopian tube. It took it about 5-6 days and implanted into the wall of the uterus. Yeah? So looking at that as a model, I always carry a little rubber vagina wherever I go. I actually got stopped in customs in Japan once. They really wanted to know what this was about. It was very lost in translation sort of remark. Yeah, no, I'm a lecturer. Yeah. You're a lecturer? Yeah. So anyway, when I take that off, this little ball of cells, which is reproducing at a huge rate, actually embeds in the wall of this. Yeah? But if you look inside that ball of cells, there's the one end is going to develop all it can to produce a placenta, but the other is going to produce you. And there's already this happening within it. Yeah? So there's that yolk sac that's forming, and it's up against another sac, which is the amniotic, the cavity created, yeah, on top. Now, what's actually going to turn out to be you is the interface between those two, just that little line there. and you've got two walls of cells. So now, taking that, what you've got are these two cavities pushing up against each other. So you've got a disc made of those layers of cells. Yeah, you've got what's called a bilaminar disc. So you've got two kinds of cells. The blue ones are ectodermal and the yellow ones are endodermal. So you've got these two layers which begin to form a sort of slipper shape. Everything that is you came out of that. It's an amazing thing, isn't it? So next into that process, flooding in between these two layers, a third layer of cells come which pushes it apart. And you get the McDonald's stage of evolution. There's a big golden M now appears above. Yeah. So you've got this kind of this is your first exam. You've now moved from a bilaminar to a trilaminar existence. So you've gone from this to this. Yeah, and you've now become 3 layers of cells. Ectoderm, endoderm, and in the middle is mesoderm. So every cell of your body is made out of one of these 3 layers. Now somehow you have to get from that to this. Yeah, something I prepared earlier. Yeah, you have to become a 3-dimensional being. So you have to move from being a 2-dimensional being to being a 3-dimensional being. And this is where I need a volunteer. Anyone will do, as long as they're sitting in the front row and wearing red. That sounds like you. Here's one I prepared earlier. So what happens is, sorry, just wait down 1 second. What happens is 3 things happen at the same time. So this 2-dimensional you has to become a 3-dimensional you, and it does it by doing a whole series of things all at the same time. One is it folds round like this, and it zips up in front. And you're still left with that little defect here, which seems to get deeper and deeper as you get older, yeah, where the zipping occurred. The other is, of course, you get the classic sausage thing happening, the side thing, yeah, the sort of baby shape. So it folds like that as well. But a third thing happens is in the back of that ectodermal layer, a little fold, a sort of pleat turns up. And that folds up and then zips up to form another tube. Alright, so I'll just show that now with the aid of my noble assistant. So this is the poncho of the fetus. Alright, so if you put your arms out, that's great, and hold there, and there. So here she is, right? This is our soon-to-be you person. This is her ectodermal layer behind, that's her endodermal layer. Here is her ectodermal layer, and in the middle, all red and gorgeous and meaty, we have her mesodermal layer. Now, if you just do a big Madonna gesture now. So this is what happens, yeah? Beautiful, isn't it? And then this zips up here to create the front of you. Now, what has happened to the yellow layer?
It's the internal.
Been covered.
It's been covered, yeah. So it's gone round.
Encapsulated.
It's, yeah. So that has also zipped up at the front, yeah, but it's inside. So it's actually created a tube that has gone right through your body and comes out the other side.
Spine.
And when you, what's that?
Spine.
Ah, no, that comes later. Good.
Spinal cord, I thought was the first.
I'll give you a clue. You're going to spend the rest of your life putting food in this end and wiping that end afterwards. Yeah? Well, you won't do it for the first 6 months, but hopefully later you'll pick up the neck. Yeah?
The base of the spine was the first developed.
It's actually what's going to be your gastrointestinal tract.
Oh.
Yeah? So it's this tube. Yeah? You've actually created, out of that endodermal layer, the gastric tube. And from that layer, all of the organs of metabolism are produced. Your liver and your spleen, all of those organs are sprouted off of that. Now, if I gently turn you around. Yeah? So this is the ectodermal layer, and the pleating occurs here. Yeah? And this zips up, and I've just got to show you a couple of really gorgeous photos. This is the zipping up of that layer, where it gets to the top, and this is it closing up over the top. Alright, so it started like there. Isn't that gorgeous? So this is the back, just as it's beginning to close off. And if you just stay there, that's the top. Now, that's the part of the lecture I really enjoy. Okay. So don't move, because this could be painful. This has now pleated and separated off. So you've actually formed something in the back. And now this is what you were saying earlier. This is going to form what? The spine. Yeah. So this is the spinal cord. And this little blue cord gets a very large swelling at the top and has lots of little hairs coming off at the bottom, which eventually will look like that. Yeah, so this is the sacrum with all of these. These are the extensions of this. Yeah? Right, thank you. That's great. And all the red stuff in the middle forms all of the connective tissue. So it forms all of the muscle, the ligaments, the tendons, everything that holds you together. Yeah.
In the heart.
Sorry? And the heart. And the heart. And this little thing, yeah? The heart. So this is all muscle. Yeah? So you've got, every organ of your body is made up of one or a combination of those three primary cells. So it's not just the physiognomy looks like I've just made it up, it's a fantasy, but actually it's a histological reality that your entire body is made out of a threefold archetypal thing. But like I said earlier, the thing about threefoldness is it's so applicable that there is threefoldness within threefoldness. So if I take these organ systems, take this brain system, came out of the blue tube, yeah? That in itself is a threefold structure. You've got the top, which is the cerebrum. That's where the actual higher mental functions go on. In the middle, you've got the midbrain and the cerebellum, which integrates movements and makes you a gorgeous dancer. Yeah? So you've got everything about this middle system involved with the midbrain. And this part that goes down into that smelly, difficult world down below comes out at the bottom. So you could almost say that you've got the eagle of the eagle, the lion of the eagle, and the walrus of the eagle. And if you take that other tube, the front tube, that creates the gut system, that has a threefold structure as well. You've got so this is all walrus. This is all created out of that metabolic system. You've got in a way, the eagle of the walrus in the stomach. You've got this 6 meters of small bowel where all the exchange goes on. Yeah? And then you've got the walrus of the walrus in the colon. So you've got a threefold structure within that. But then if you take the whole of the bit in between, you've got these three organs that connect the two. You've got this blue thing is the lungs, with its thyroid cartilage and its bronchial tubes. You've got the heart with its 4 chambers. And it's got 2 little auricular appendages on the heart. And all of these vessels that come in, and the aorta going down, the vena cava coming up, and sitting below it, you've got this large organ of the liver. Yeah, big, juicy organ of the liver. But all you have to do is add a little beak on there. Yeah, and this gorgeous organ is like an eagle, made exactly of the same sort of material we were talking about with the eagle. Fine, exquisitely delicate, crystalline. And if you look at this guy, just turn it into a flipper and put on a tusk, you've now got a walrus. And the liver is this juicy, dark, powerful, nutritive organ. And then in the middle, just put a couple of eyes on and a bit of a jaw, and you've got a lion. Yeah, all made out of muscle and constantly expanding and contracting. So not only is it into the cells, it's actually into the structures as well. I just want to finish with, I've done a lot of ologies, I want to finish with mythology. Yeah? We've got this beautiful creation myth, the Maori creation myth. It's so gorgeous. You have this picture of, Papatuanuku, the earth mother, yeah, always full with nutrition, dark, and then she is locked in the arms of Ranginui, the sky god. Yeah, and their love is so great that they are locked and there is no space between them. And their children are squashed between their great bodies. Yeah? And each of the gods in turn has a go at separating them. Yeah? Tu Matawenga hacks at them with their mere and it doesn't make any difference at all. Yeah? And Tangaroa tries to wash them apart, but nothing. Finally, Tane has a go. Yeah? Tane, the god of the forest. And he takes his hands, which are like the branches, and puts them on the body of his mother. And he puts his feet, which are like the roots, and puts them on the body of his father. And he begins to push as slowly as a tree grows. Yeah, slowly as a kauri tree grows. He pushes the 2 great bodies of them apart until finally they're separated. Ranginui is thrown way up into the sky, and the children are so mournful that they place the stars of the Southern Cross over his heart. And the rain is his tears for his lost love. And Papatuanuku is pushed deep down, but the children cover her in the mist to cover her nakedness. Yeah? And this picture of Tane. This is a mythological picture that's repeated through almost every mythology. It is exactly this picture. Yeah? It is exactly the 2 different dermal layers being pushed apart by this middle layer. Yeah? And it's even got this picture of the, this is the bronchial tree. Yeah? Even got Tane upside down. Yeah, you've got this beautiful picture of a tree pushing apart the 2 polarities. in that picture of Thailand. So it's an amazing thing, this threefoldness. It just cuts across so many different things. We've touched on about 6 different things. This approach works on the connection between things, not the separations. It involves looking at things macroscopically, so you've got to look at the big picture, and what you've got to do is find the connections. But it can also lead to very practical things like ways to treat people, different therapies, and ways of integrating different kinds of areas of science and art. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right.